What's up, guys? It's Josh back with SobrietyWoD. If it's your first time, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I'm sitting here in Statesboro, Georgia. That is my wife's new apartment in the background. Her mom donated for a while for her to live in. This town is actually where I got sober 7 years ago, and actually where I started doing CrossFit. This is the second time I've been back. I came back like the first year. This is the first time I've been back since then, and went to a meeting last night, and it was actually surprisingly, nostalgic. The guy running the meeting is the same guy that was running it when I was here, and there's some good recovery here. So one of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately is the idea of self-will, and a quote from the book that stands out to me that's kind of been rolling around in my head is this idea that the first realization we must come to is that a life lived on self-will can hardly be a success. And you know, sometimes I get confused about what self-will is, because you know, in my mind I can justify any action as self-will, right? Like, my will is the faculty I use to make decisions, and so any decision I make ultimately comes from the self. But what I've learned is that self-will, the idea of self-will, is decisions that come from concern for the self. Not necessarily from the self, because they all come from me. But they're decisions that are out of concern for myself, whether it's my well-being or my situation, my reputation, my status, whatever it is, they are decisions I make with regard to how they affect me. And you know, I think that alcoholics and addicts have unprecedented experience with self-will. You know, I think we've lived a life that has operated under self-will to an extent that most people will never experience. And most of that is due to the actual addiction itself. So when we get addicted to a substance or you know, sex or money or anything like that, we start to think in terms of survival. The brain is actually rewired, and we think that these things and our possession of these things and our obtaining of these things and our consistent ability to consume these things is literally a life or death situation. And so we begin to see anything that might prevent us from obtaining these things or consuming these things or holding on to these things as literal, like a threat to our very existence. And so we go into this mode of activation, we go into this mode of decision making that is completely fueled on what we consider to be an absolute necessity for our survival. And so we know what a life lived on self-will is like. We know how deep and dark that chamber is. A guy was talking at a meeting the other day, and he said that he felt so happy that, you know, he wasn't waking up and immediately running and gunning. And you guys know what I'm talking about. That feeling of like, where am I going to get it today? How am I going to get it? How much do I need? Do I have enough? And then thinking even in terms of like daily activities, like I can only go this long without sneaking off to use, you know, so I can't do things that normal people seem to be able to do. You know, I couldn't go on a 4-hour hike without bringing something with me. I couldn't work a full 8-hour day without taking a break and refueling, you know. So just this idea of self-will being what motivates us, what is driving our decision making. And if it is the question, how does this affect me, or how is this going to make me feel, or what does this mean for me, then those decisions are decisions that are based in self-will. The question for today, for discussion, is just, you know, how was your decision making affected by self-will, or how was your decision making an example of self-will while you're in active recovery? Active addiction. So when you were being completely fueled by self-will or the concern for yourself, how did this affect your daily decisions and your decision making? All right, so you guys go ahead, discuss that, take some time. We'll be right back with the second part.